What's going on, everyone? I'm just a typical, average American here today to react and learn about why invading the Nordic countries would be a huge mistake. So, with Russia invading Ukraine, and all of the uncertainty going on in the world right now, a lot of countries are preparing for the worst. So today, I want to take a look at this video. This is all about how Norway, Sweden, Finland, and Denmark, the Nordic countries, are preparing for the possibility of conflict or war with Russia. So let's take a look.
There must be Nordic capacities, soldiers, aircraft, and vessels that have control in the areas closest to Russia.
Oh.
Those were the words of Norway's Chief of Defense, General Eirik Kristoffersen,
Oh,
in May
wow.
2025.
Wow.
His statement reflects growing urgency among Nordic leaders as tensions with Russia escalate amid the ongoing war in Ukraine.
Right, right. To be honest, I feel like this is something that a lot of Americans don't think about enough. Because for a lot of Americans, we feel like we are so far away from the Russia Ukraine conflict, and that it's something we hear about and we see it on TV and the internet, but we don't experience it like in real life. Whereas the Nordic countries are, you guys are very, very close and bordering Russia, literally bordering Russia, while all of this is going on. And that's terrifying. And I do feel like a lot of Americans don't even don't even understand how Ukrainians and Nordic people are feeling about this right now and how serious it is.
This frank statement underscores the region's shifting strategic posture. Once shielded by a rough geography and neutrality, the Nordic countries now find themselves increasingly focused on bolstering defense and readiness along NATO's new northern frontier.
Wow.
More recent statements echo this harder tone by the Nordics towards Russia.
Okay.
On May 26, 2025, Danish Prime Minister Mette Frederiksen stated, "During the day, Putin talks about negotiations, then he bombs Ukraine during the night.
Yeah.
The gloves are off, and while the US and other states seem content to not upset Putin, the four Nordic nations, 5 if you include Iceland, who has no military, are doing the complete opposite."
And that makes complete sense to me. Like, I totally get it. And it's so true that here in America, there is a sentiment that we're all just kind of like sitting around just waiting to see what happens. And yeah, Donald Trump has been very friendly and not very critical of the horrible things Russia and Putin have done. That's true. So I understand if a lot of Nordic countries are probably pretty frustrated with America. I understand. And I really think Americans don't understand how serious and dangerous and real this conflict and threat is to the Nordic countries. Because I think it mostly comes down to geography and how America feels far away and you guys are all much closer.
Public response across the Nordic countries has extended beyond online engagement into concrete infrastructure action.
Okay.
Governments in Norway, Sweden, Finland, and Denmark have all begun reviewing and, in some cases, restoring Cold War-era bomb shelters.
Oh my God. See, I didn't know it was like this. I didn't know all of this was going on. I know we're all on edge because of Russia and what Russia might do. And what Russia is already doing to Ukraine is horrible and scary. And but in America, we're not like we're not like preparing bunkers, you know? This, I didn't know all of this was going on, and I think it's really important to learn about it.
In Sweden, civil defense officials have announced plans to inspect and modernize thousands of public shelters. In
Wow.
Finland, where, as a former officer in the Finnish Defence Forces, I can attest that civil defense infrastructure is taken extremely seriously. The
Oh my
shelters are
God.
designed to accommodate the entire population.
Oh my God. These Nordic countries are really getting prepared for like war and bombs. It's terrifying. And I didn't even realize how extreme this was.
Authorities have increased inspection cycles, updated readiness protocols, and renewed public education campaigns to ensure that our long-standing shelter network remains functional and trusted in today's security environment.
I mean, it makes complete sense, though. It makes total sense. This is exactly what the Nordic countries should be doing. You guys are very smart to be preparing already. You're preparing for the worst case scenario, and that's very smart.
Meanwhile, Norway and Denmark have started investing in dual-use infrastructure that can be adapted quickly in the event of a crisis.
Wow.
This raises an important question. Will war come to the Nordics? This
Yeah.
video explores that question and assesses how physically and logistically prepared the Nordic nations are, and then we'll
Okay.
move on to the possible flashpoints and areas where these nations have prepared set-piece kill zones if Russia should ever try something.
Oh my God. So the Nordic countries, Norway, Denmark, Sweden, Finland, you guys have all been preparing for the possibility of war. Way more than I ever knew.
The Russian invasion of Ukraine was a watershed moment. Nordic countries, especially Finland, with its 1,300-kilometer border with Russia,
Yeah.
found themselves uncomfortably close to the war.
Yeah.
Rather than remain passive, they responded with urgency. The
Right.
war in Ukraine, more than any single event, has served as a catalyst for a sweeping military recalibration across the Nordics.
I mean, that's terrifying. That's terrifying. Like, because you literally see Russia invading another country, taking territory, killing people, bombing cities. And just, if you're bordering Russia, that's terrifying because that could happen to you.
It shattered long-held assumptions about regional security and triggered urgent investments in personnel, equipment, and infrastructure.
Right, right.
On April 22, 2025, Swedish Prime Minister Ulf Kristersson made this shift plain when he said, "We are discussing several hundreds of infantry combat vehicles.
Wow.
The faster we make the decisions, the faster they could be delivered."
Wow. Okay.
This renewed urgency has echoed across the Nordic region. Norway is acquiring new frigates and submarines, expanding its personnel, and boosting its armored capabilities, including tanks and air defense assets.
So a lot of the Nordic countries are not just building bunkers, but greatly expanding your military.
Denmark is investing heavily in both its navy and ground forces, prompted in part by increased Russian aggression and recent outbursts towards Greenland from US officials.
Yeah,
On top of Denmark and Norway rearming, Sweden is also adding more submarines, tanks, armored vehicles, corvettes, and continuously upgrading its fleet of Gripen aircraft while also increasing personnel and reserve numbers.
Well, honestly, I gotta say, as an American, this makes me feel a lot better knowing how much effort and time the Nordic countries are preparing your military. Like, I'm aware of like the American military. I don't know much about the Swedish and the Danish and Norwegian and Finnish military and what you guys are doing. I don't know about that stuff. So hearing how powerful and how much effort you're putting into it, that's awesome. Like I'm really, that makes me feel safer, actually. Like that makes me feel good. So thank you.
Finland, which likely had the biggest base to build from, is upgrading its air force with new fighter jets, adding surveillance aircraft, air defense, and aiming to up its reserve to at least 1 million soldiers.
Wow.
So the question remains, how ready would the Nordic nations be if war broke out? Let's first look at defense spending, then move on to hardware and personnel.
Okay. Okay.
As we spoke about earlier,
I mean, we've already gone over this a little bit already. It sounds like the Nordic countries are doing everything they can to prepare for the possibility of war.
defense spending in the Nordics in 2025 reflects an unprecedented military focus since the Cold War.
Oh, wow.
Sweden has committed to raising defense spending to 2.4% of GDP this year,
Wow.
aiming for 3.5% by 2030.
Oh, my God.
Denmark has launched a 6.5 billion euro military investment plan over the next 2 years, lifting its defense spending to around 3.2% of GDP.
Wow.
Finland, in parallel, is targeting 3% of GDP by 2029
This is
and has
impressive.
added 3 billion in defense funds this year alone.
Jeez.
Norway is similarly increasing its budget, though it hasn't disclosed exact figures,
Okay.
but it is likely going to increase the most out of all 4 nations due to its relative extreme oil wealth.
So, I mean, it sounds like this is pretty unprecedented since the Cold War. This is the most that the Nordic countries are like putting money into expanding the military for a very long time. This is like unprecedented.
To compare, Russia officially spends well over 100 billion euro, with its economy going full tilt due to its invasion of Ukraine, with
Jeez.
projections rising as high as around 148 billion, over 10% of its GDP.
Jeez.
There are clear signs that Russia's economy is suffering from burnout. So unless things escalate, which they could, I don't see Russia being able to maintain their current military spend for another 5 years.
Right.
And Russia's economy is likely going to either shrink or come to a halt with such extreme investment in defense.
I hope.
Let's for this
hope so.
exercise say that they'll continue at a slightly lower pace, around 5%, which would leave them at around 100 billion.
Okay. Jeez.
All in all, even
we can only hope that happens. That Russia can't sustain this forever.
Even with Russia pouring resources into its war in Ukraine, the combined defense spending of the 4 Nordic nations already amounts to nearly half of Russia's total.
Nice.
But unlike Russia, where a significant share of that investment is being burned on the battlefield,
Right.
the Nordics are steadily building and sustaining their capabilities.
Right. So this is a huge, huge investment by the Nordic countries. And I'm very happy to hear about it. Because I didn't know it was this substantial. This is awesome.
Looking ahead to 2030, this trajectory suggests a striking shift. The Nordic countries are likely to possess a far more resilient and modern defense infrastructure than what Russia will be able to regenerate after the staggering losses it continues to suffer in Ukraine.
Okay.
As of 2025, the Nordic countries are showing a strong upward trend in military mobilization.
Okay.
Sweden
This is interesting because I don't really know anything about how big the Nordic armies are or the militaries are. How many people you have.
Sweden maintains around 25,600 active personnel,
Okay.
with the ability to scale up to approximately 88,000 when conscripts and reserves are included.
Okay.
Finland, with its long-standing conscription model and vast reserve structure, holds an estimated 870,000 reservists, making it one of the most mobilization-ready nations in Europe.
Oh my God. Finland. How big is the population of Finland to have 870,000 in reserve?
Norway fields about 23,000 active troops and approximately 45,000 in its home guard,
Yeah.
while Denmark has about 25,000 active personnel and 63,000 in its reserves and home guard.
Right, because the Nordic countries are not, you don't have huge populations. So the fact that Finland has like 800,000, that's kind of crazy.
Though both countries are engaged in NATO-driven initiatives to expand these figures.
Oh, okay.
Looking ahead to 2030, this mobilization grows significantly across the board. Sweden aims to reach a wartime force of 115,000, with around 30,000 active troops and a boosted reserve structure.
Oh my God.
Finland plans to expand its reserve force to 1 million, maintaining its regular active component of about 25,000. Norway is targeting around 28,000 active personnel and a combined reserve and home guard force of 65,000,
This is
totaling
insane.
93,000.
This is amazing.
Denmark will likely keep the figures close to today's totals, but will focus
Okay.
on retention. But I don't see them remaining at 25,000 with the additional ships currently being considered for their navy.
Okay.
So it'll more likely be somewhere along the lines of 27,000.
Yeah, because it's not just about how many personnel there are. It's important to have a lot of military people on the ground, but also the fact that the Nordic countries are clearly investing in submarines and ships and airplanes, and that's all hugely important as well. It's just, I just gotta say, it is very sad that this is the world we live in. Like, it is very sad. This is what the Nordic countries have to do for your own safety and the safety of the world, really, fighting against Russia. That's protecting America as well. So the whole thing is sad that it's happening, but it's great like that. Since that's the situation we are in, the response from the Nordic countries is incredible.
Altogether, by 2030, the 4 Nordic countries are projected to field over 108,000 active duty soldiers
Wow.
and maintain a combined reserve and home guard force exceeding 1,190,000.
Damn. Wow.
That puts their total trained personnel base at around 1,300,000,
Very
a
good.
number that presents a formidable deterrent on its own,
Yeah.
even before factoring in NATO reinforcements.
Yeah, that's another thing. You got to factor in NATO and all the other countries that would hopefully step up and help defend. In this crazy scenario where Russia is invading the Nordic countries, you have to assume all the other NATO countries are going to step in and help defend as well. Although at the same time, not as much has been done about Russia invading Ukraine as you would think as well. It's very scary actually, even with NATO.
But what about Russia? By 2025, Russia's manpower is under severe strain. While official figures still list around 1,100,000 active duty personnel and nearly 1,500,000 reserves,
Okay.
the reality on the ground is far more problematic.
Wow.
Since the
So the amount of reserve just in the Nordic militaries is rivaling the Russian military all on its own.
start of the Ukraine war, Russia has suffered an estimated 750,000 to 950,000 casualties, including
Right.
both killed and wounded, according to Western intelligence and independent analyses.
Right.
Some assessments suggest that more than 1 million personnel have been rendered combat ineffective,
Oh, wow.
with casualty rates often exceeding 1,500 troops per day. Russia is losing soldiers faster than it can train replacements.
Yeah, it's sad to talk about humans being killed and humans being hurt, but that's war. That's what happens. And in this situation, it's a good thing that Russia is hurting at this point. That's good.
Looking toward 2030, Russia has signaled intentions to rebuild its forces, perhaps expanding its active duty numbers to as many as 1,500,000 troops and revamping its military-industrial output. However,
You gotta think that if Russia keeps recruiting people to just go and die, that the Russians are gonna get tired of this.
budget pressures, training bottlenecks, and persistent battlefield losses suggest that regaining full pre-war capability
Yeah.
will be a lengthy and uncertain endeavor.
Right.
Most analysts agree that while Russia may restore troop quantity by 2030, quality and thus actual combat readiness will lag behind.
God forbid this is still going on in 2030. This has gone on longer than a lot of people thought. God forbid this is still happening in 5 years. Ugh.
On top of this, the value of a well-trained Western soldier has become brutally clear in Ukraine. On average, Ukrainian troops, many trained and equipped to NATO standards, inflict losses on Russian forces at a ratio of up to 7-1.
Wow.
This means that for every Western standard soldier lost, Russia must lose 7 to gain ground.
Oh my God. That's incredible. That says something amazing about Ukraine and all of the soldiers fighting for Ukraine. One one soldier for Ukraine is worth 7 Russian soldiers, according to this.
The Nordic armies will be equipped with a functioning air force and perform combined arms maneuvers, which would likely make the figures even more skewed.
Oh my God.
By 2025, the Nordic countries collectively field a formidable and modern mechanized force.
Yeah.
Together, they operate approximately 400 tanks.
This is cool that they're going through like all the numbers here, because I don't know the details about how big and how powerful the Nordic armies are. And this is like going into a lot of detail about how many personnel, how many armored tanks there are. It's pretty fascinating.
Primarily Leopard 2 variants, with additional units on order that will significantly increase that number by 2030. Their infantry fighting vehicle strength, dominated by the CV-90 family, stands at more than 900, with joint procurement boosting interoperability.
Wow.
On top of this, the region fields over 3,000 armored personnel carriers, both tracked and wheeled.
Oh my God.
This includes legacy systems like the MT-LB and M113, as well as modern platforms such as the Sisupasi series in Finland and Piranha 5 in Denmark.
Oh my God. You know, here in the United States, we are very proud of our military. We spend maybe more money on military than any country in the world. So we don't tend to hear a lot about other countries and your military. So it's awesome to hear like the Nordic countries, for example, have a huge, powerful military all on your own. Which I know you guys have a military. I just don't know like how big it is or how many tanks and armored vehicles and how many people. And now I have a much better idea, and it's very impressive. Very impressive. And it's honestly awesome to hear this, especially like with all this stuff going on now. But okay, we're like halfway through this. This is going to take a while to get through, so I'm going to stop here for now. This has been so informative. Like I'm gonna check out the rest of this video in part 2. So if you've enjoyed this so far, feel free to give this video a like or leave a comment with your thoughts on any of this Nordic news and military news and any of this stuff, especially if you live in Norway or Sweden or Finland or Denmark and you know more about this. That'd be awesome to hear about. And if you're interested in more videos like this, feel free to subscribe for more. And until then, thanks for watching, and see you next time.